Welcome to my home. For those of y'all who don't know me, I am Miss Rosanna. I'm the Youth Services Librarian at Seguin, and we are doing a very fun event tomorrow, which will go Facebook Live at 4 p.m., where one lucky staff member is going to get a pie pitched in their face by Steve Parker, our city manager. So we're really excited about it. It's been a fun little competition, and we love how much participation we've had. So thank you so much for all your votes, particularly since Miss Bailey Jo is highly in the lead. But you still have time to vote. Voting will end noon on Thursday. And let's see, Thursday, July 30th, 31st, 31st. On Thursday this week. So you do still have time to vote. You have Miss Jackie, our director, to choose from, Miss Sylvia, our assistant director, me, our youth services librarian, or Miss Bailey Jo, our assistant youth services librarian. So those are your options. Now, what we decided to do, because the voting ends at noon and then we're going to do the event at 4, I decided today we would bake the pies. So each one of us picked a flavor, so that way we at least can enjoy whatever might get smashed into our faces. And I'm going to bake all of those pies today and take them tomorrow so that we are prepared. So you get to watch me bake one of them. So I've been really busy this morning and I've already gotten started on a few things, but right now we're gonna start with the crust. So I found a new recipe today and I really like it. Like, I've already baked one crust and it came out like this. So it's not the prettiest crust in the world, but it does taste really good, and it's definitely a thick, flaky crust, which I'm excited about. So, all right. We're gonna start with getting our water cold. So you want really cold ingredients when you make any kind of pastry crust. Oh, a little about my background. When I was going to grad school, I worked in a bakery. And while bread was my specialty, I really enjoy baking anything. I have a lot of fun. I'm super out of practice because I just don't have the time. And so, but I'm excited about today. It's been fun. All right, so anytime you make pastry, you want your ingredients super cold. So I have butter in the freezer, and I've got some lard in the refrigerator. This recipe called for shortening, but I didn't have any shortening, but I did have lard, and it worked really well. So I think, that works just as well. Okay, so I'm gonna start with getting our water cold. So you're gonna have half a cup of water and you're gonna add ice. So I already grabbed ice and added it to here. So we're just gonna fill it up with water and let that start getting really nice and cold. So I filled it up to like the full cup line, and we're only gonna use half a cup of it. But we will stir that ice around a little bit. And I washed my hands thoroughly before I hit play, but we are going to be washing our hands a lot today. All right, so we're gonna let that get nice and chilled water. All right, next up, we're going to add our flour. And you need 2.5 cups of flour. All right, and let's see. Okay. We're going to use this bowl, which it was clean, and then I set it in the sink while I was trying to get stuff situated. So we're just gonna rinse that off again real fast. All right. Okay. So 2.5 cups of flour is gonna start us off with. Okay, got my flour. And 1 cup. I like to do the butter knife, which helps you to even them out. So you just take the straight edge and just kind of chop it a little and then scrape it, and it makes it so nice and pretty. All right. There's 2. And now we just need half, so we're just gonna fill it up to the middle line that's right in there. All right, we're good on our flour. It's easy to overwork your pastry dough too. So keep that in mind whenever you start like mixing. All right, now we need a teaspoon of salt. And it's really strange to be cooking with like out music or anything on. I definitely typically have lots of music on. All right, and then 6 tablespoons of butter. All right, so I put my butter in the freezer earlier so it would get nice and cold. And we're gonna cut off 6 tablespoons. So we're just gonna cut off 2 tablespoons and have that off. All right, now I have found, actually my aunt taught me this, but if you grate your butter, like when it's frozen, it folds in really easily and it goes a lot faster, particularly on pastry and things like this where you want the butter to stay cold. So we're grating that up. I hope y'all had fun for summer reading this year. It was definitely different, but we enjoyed it. And for the youth summer reading, remember to get your stuff turned in by August 1st, and then we'll draw the raffle prizes for them. I really didn't consider how many like little awkward silences there might be. But I love baking, so I'll just fill it with stuff about me, and that way y'all can get to know me a little bit better. For us being closed and kind of isolated, I haven't gotten to get to know the community as much as I would like yet, but I look forward to it. I'm excited to be at Seguin, and I am really excited about the community. Everybody seems so nice. Absolutely love it. All right, so we've got our butter grated and mixed in. So next we're gonna do our lard. We're gonna add that in there. And we need 3/4 cup of that. Okay. So I leave it out. I just used it. Where did I put it? Butter. Come on. Oh no! Oh, there it is. know I had some left over. I absolutely had some left over. All right. All right, so we're gonna do, what is it? 3/4 of a cup. Okay. All right. A knife again, and then okay. So for the lard, I kind of just cut it off into chunks, especially since it is cold, and then I just kind of smash it into my measuring cup. All right. So while we're doing this, let's see. I grew up outside of Lubbock, and then when I was 15, my family moved to New Mexico, and that is where I finished out high school, and I did my undergraduate degree. And then after that, I moved to Lubbock for a while. Well, I took a break in college, and I lived in Midland for like a year and a half. And then I went back to New Mexico, and I finished out school. Then I went to Lubbock, and I was there for a couple years, and then ended up in the Capel area. So I worked at, that's where I worked at the bakery, was in Capel. And then I lived in Louisville, and I lived in Grapevine and Bedford. And then I started grad school during that time as well at Texas Women's University. And then after I graduated that, I applied for library jobs all over the country. I really, I was open to going wherever I found the opportunity. And I ended up in Dodge City, Kansas. And I spent almost 5 years there as their youth services librarian. And it was wonderful. I had a lot of fun, met lots of great people, and I enjoyed it a lot being there. All right, and now we are ready for our next step. All right, so now it's time to start mixing this together. So ideally, you would use a pastry cutter. I unfortunately don't have a pastry cutter, so I'm going to use just a couple forks. And I'm going to chop it just a little bit with my knife. Be super careful if you do this, though. Super careful. I'm just going to chop that lard up into a little bit of smaller pieces. So whenever you do this, you're going to mix it until it becomes kind of like coarse mill and gets a little crumbly. And then we're going to slowly add in our water and mix it up. This recipe also calls for you to freeze the dough, which I did on those that are earlier, the one that I just showed you that's already been baked. Those were frozen for 2 hours, and then I molded them and baked them. And it worked really well. The only thing was it made it a little challenging to spread into the pan. So it wasn't very pretty, although I was kind of rushing a little bit. So perhaps if I had given it just a little bit more time, then it would have. But right, when I worked at the bakery, we used our hands for a lot of things, and I got very much in the habit of being hands-on, and especially working with bread. Like, there's only so much you can do with utensils, and you kind of use your hands a lot. And it kind of gets you, you're able to feel the dough a little bit more, and you get to know like what it should feel like, what it doesn't, so you can kind of tell when something is a little off and you're kind of like, well, I might have done something wrong. There was once I was working at a summer camp and we were making cheesecakes. Well, one of the other recipes we made were we'd have spaghetti and we'd have garlic bread. Well, so having said that, we bought these bulk big liquid butters, and you had garlic butters and you had regular butter. And there was once we were making the cheesecake, and while we were doing the crusts, we accidentally used the garlic butter. It was really, really bad. It was so bad. But we turned it into a fun little game. We had like the male counselors, and they did a pie eating competition. And of course we didn't tell them it was garlic butter crust, and so they dived in and they ate and quickly spit it out. It was pretty funny. But we made it up to them. We made like a special cake for them to eat afterwards, but it was funny. All right. So now we've got it fairly crumbly, it's a little coarse. And now we're gonna start adding our water. So I just need half a cup, and like I said, we poured a cup, and then that ice has already completely melted. So I'm gonna add, got a half cup, and pour some in there. Wonderful. All right, so we're just gonna kind of drizzle a little bit at a time and then mix it in. All right, so don't need that anymore. I'm gonna use this one. All right. So the one that we are making is lemon meringue. I don't believe I had said that yet, so I will. This is one of my favorite flavors. And the one I've already done today is for a chocolate meringue. And we also have a buttermilk chess one that I'm going to make, and a banana cream pie, which I've already done the filling of that one and the crust for that one. But I haven't done the topping yet because that one needs to chill for a little while before you add the topping. So that is where we're at. All right, now you do want to be careful and not over mix your dough. And it's super hard like to know where that line is. But you don't want it too sticky. You want it to be like pliable. So we're at a pretty good place now. So I'm going to put a little bit of flour onto my counter and move some of my stuff away. All right. And then we'll roll it out and we'll put it in our pie shell. And we're gonna spray our pie shell. Get it prepared and ready. The oven is already preheated at 350. All right. So normally, like I said, with this recipe at least, you would freeze it for a couple hours before you do this part. But because I am doing a demonstration and can show you just how like to go about it if you're kind of in a hurry and you're in a bit of a time crunch. All right, so you got your rolling pin. I personally really like the French rolling pins like this because it just gives you like a longer space to work with. But I like that. I know my sister, on the other hand, prefers the ones with like the handles, and my mother does as well. I've really been baking all my life. Like, as whenever we were tall enough to reach the countertop, actually, I say that, it was even before then because we had step stools, but Mom had us in the kitchen learning to bake and cook and all of that fun stuff. When I was a kid, she would typically make everything, like our own bread, and you know, there was a lot of things we didn't even get at the store. We would just make from scratch, and bread, pizza crust, tortillas, and all of that. And I still typically do myself because I do enjoy it. All right, I need, okay. All right, so as I'm trying to push this in, I'm using like the disposable pie tins, so they're not very sturdy. So I'm putting it just kind of inside my other pie tins that haven't been used yet, and using it as a brace. And you just kind of press it out and let it stick to all the edges and get it nice and tight. And then there's lots of things you can do, lots of little designs. I admit that that part is not quite my forte, but we are going to give it a try. So you want a little bit extra. That'll come up and hang over a little bit so you have more to work with if you want it, if you want to do something a little more intricate. All right, a little more right up on that side. Okay, so this is where we're at. And now I'm just gonna do the real simple, like, little 2-finger one where you just kind of press your fingers down and it kind of creates like a little edge for you. So I'm just gonna do that all the way around. And then we're gonna take the excess off. And it is, I really like this crust. Like, this is absolutely my new favorite pie crust. I'm so excited to try it. Well, I'm so excited to like eat it, you know, like that kind of try it. But it's good dough. Like, it feels really easy to work with. It was fast to make. I love it. Okay, so now in order to let it breathe and bake evenly, we're just gonna poke little holes. I use my fork in the bottom of the crust, and we'll blind bake it. And so there we are, it's ready for the oven. All right, now we are going to move on from that. Okay, so we already have our crust baked for the lemon one. Now we're going to move on to making our filling. I'm just gonna get cleaned up a little. Bench scraper. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Banana meringue and our lemon recipe. All right. right, so there's different ways to do this. When my mother makes these, she usually uses a glass bowl and uses the microwave instead of the stovetop. But today we're going to use the stovetop. All right, so we're going to get a saucepan. This one is a little bit bigger than what we actually need, but it'll work great. And we're going to do a cup of sugar. All right, cup of sugar, and we're gonna whisk together sugar and flour, cornstarch, and salt. So for flour, we need 2 tablespoons. And 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. Two and 3. All right. And the salt is 1/4 of a teaspoon. Already over here. All right, got 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt in there. So now we're going to take our whisk and we're going to kind of whisk that together. All right. And now we're going to stir in the water, lemon juice, and zest. So I haven't squeezed our lemons yet. So we're going to do that real fast. We're going to use our 2 cup. We're gonna zest our lemons first, actually. Use that. Okay. All right. All ready to zest. And get my hair out of my eyes a little bit and wash my nails. All right, so using the kind of the medium holes, depending on what size you have. I don't particularly care for the super tiny ones because that portion is so hard to clean up afterwards. And this here like makes it like plenty small. So we're gonna zest our 2 lemons. Love the way lemons smell. There's one done, and on to the other. I did cut myself doing this once. Let me tell you, if you've never cut yourself on a cheese grater, ooh, that is a whole new level of pain. So always be really careful when you do this. There is still the pirate treasure hunt going on at the library. So I hope that y'all have had a chance to come in and do that. I hope it's really fun. I know we had a lot of fun making it. And we do plan to continue doing things like that in the fall. So be sure to like come in and see what we have going on. We'll definitely be changing it every so often. Alright, so scoop all that out. And we've got our lemon zest. Perfect. Alright, and we're just gonna set that aside. Maybe a little sturdier. There we go. Alright. Now we're gonna cut our lemons and juice them. I do not have a fancy juicer. And right now, there we go. So we're just gonna dive in. Personally, I like to try to scrape a little of the seeds out before I do it, but it's not necessary. They're gonna come out regardless, so you'll pick them up out of the juice. All right. I like to make several cuts so that you kind of get more of the juice out. All right, and then we just squeeze. And then we rotate and we squeeze again. All right. So there's that one. And our other half. Ooh. There we go. I just wondered, kind of wondering if I went live on the wrong page, because there's, I think I might have. I'm gonna double check that real fast. Seguin Public Library. Yeah, I'm looking at their posts. Yep. I think I did. Totally on the wrong side. I'm on like a branch, but I'm not on like the main library page, so that explains some things. Okay, I'm fixing this. So if y'all are watching this, that means y'all watched the video, and I appreciate that. And I'll stay tuned and we'll finish it out.